What's up, my little pretties? It's your mistress, the Queen of Lions here, and today, welcome back to another episode of Shadows and Pretties. Now, last episode, I know we talked about Totally Spies, the movie, so if you have not watched the episode yet, I highly recommend you go check that out. Today, we are doing episode 83, and today I am going to be talking about a Disney movie, which I'm sure most of you guys seen this movie as a kid, like I know I have. I don't remember this movie until I watched it for the first time in years. So I definitely have to say I watched this as a kid. It's a pretty good movie, to be honest. And this movie, it came out in 1996. So if you were a kid in the 90s, you probably remember this movie. So today we have James and the Giant Peach, which is a movie that Disney adapted. And of course, it is based on the book, a popular novel that was written in 1961 by a British author, Ronald Dahl, which I am going to talk about the book a little bit because there are some differences in the book that is different compared to the movie. I will be getting through the movie first, me kind of explain the plot about the movie for those who have not seen it in a long time and would like, me to refresh their memory. But if you don't want any spoilers, I highly recommend you do not watch this video and go watch James and the Giant Peach. It's a really good movie, actually. Like, it's a pretty good movie as regards to how good the movie is. Like, I remember watching James and the Giant Peach back when I was, like, a really young kid. Like, I watched the movie and, the animation of the movie, like, I like it how it's, like, first a bit, there's parts of it was live action, and then it goes into, I don't know, claymation somewhat or something. I really don't know. Yet again, my memory is probably foggy because I have not seen the movie in like a really long time. But what's really interesting is that when it gets to the animated part of the movie, well, of James and the Giant Peach, it kind of reminds me of how a Tim Burton movie would be. Like the characters in there that, James meets, they kind of remind me of how, Tim Burton would, create certain characters. Like Tim Burton's done, a lot of crazy things. And, if Tim Burton were to sit there and, animate, animate this movie, then it would be quite different if it was made by Tim Burton. It makes me feel that it's a Tim Burton movie, even though this movie is not made by Tim Burton. I really wish it was. But anyways, let me get started right here on the movie. So James Henry Trotter is a young orphan boy who lives with his sadistic domineering aunts Spiker and Sponge. Who even has those names for aunts? Like, seriously. Spiker and Sponge? Oh, those are more, for male villains. Like, if they were male villains, that'd be one thing. But having on Spiker and Sponge, that's kind of weird. Well, to me, that is. And one day after rescuing a spider from hysterical aunts, James obtains his magical crocodile tongues from a mysterious old woman, which grows a colossal peach each on a nearby old peach tree that Spiker and Sponge had exploited as a tourism attraction. At night, James eats through the peach to find a pit with several human-sized anthropomorphic insects, such as Mr. Grasshopper, Mr. Centipede, Miss Spider, who is actually the spider that saved from Spiker and Sponge, and Mr. Earthworm, Miss Ladybug, and the Glowworm. As they hear Spiker and Sponge searching for James, the centipede cuts off the stem connecting to the peach on the tree, and the peach rolls away to the Atlantic Ocean. So the animation of this movie, it reminds me of a Tim Burton movie when it's not directed by Tim Burton. It kind of reminds me of a Tim Burton movie because I know Tim Burton kind of did something like this. I could be wrong, however, but you guys can comment down below and let me know. Like, when I watched this movie as a kid, the animation was really well done. Like, there was like a lot of time and effort into it. Like, I like it how it had one part of it being live action and then parts of the movie being live action and parts of it being animated. I know some movies have done, stuff like that. So if you want to name some movies down below, feel free to. The insects who drive the peach to New York City, as James has ever dreamed about visiting the Empire State Building, which is a pretty popular, place in New York, like his parents wanted to, as the obstacles include the great mechanical shark, the undead skeletal pirates, in the icy water of Arctic. When the group arrive, they are suddenly attacked by a tempest form of the rhinoceros that killed James's parents, which James, although frightened, gets his friends to safety and confronts the rhino before it strikes the Peach with lightning. So James and the Peach then fall to the sea below, landing on top of the Empire State Building. After he is rescued by firefighters, Spiker and Sponge arrive to attempt to claim James and the Peach, but when James tells his crowd of farcical adventure and exposes his aunts for his mistreatment, enraged by James's betrayal, Spiker and Sponge attempts to hack James with stolen fire axes, but they're stopped by the insects and they get arrested by the police. So James introduces his friends to the New Yorkers and allows the children to eat up the Peach, as the Peach Pit is made into a cottage in the Central Park where James lives with his bug friends, whom now form his family and find success in the frame of city. Mr. Centipede runs for the New York City mayor and now James his father, while Miss Spire opens up a club and now becomes his mother. Earthworm becomes a mascot for the skincare company and now is James's uncle, while Miss Ladybug becomes an obstetrician and is James's aunt, while Mr. Grasshopper becomes a concert violinist and is now James's grandfather, and the glowworm becomes the light torch of the Statue of the Liberty, and now it is his grandmother. So James celebrates his 9th birthday with his new family and friends, and that's basically how the movie ends. What a great story that this movie was. I really do find this movie, James and the Giant Peach, to be rather amazing. Like, I really do like how the movie went out. Like, the movie was just flat out amazing and really well done, and it's a really good movie of how this went out. It's pretty well made in detail, so I definitely have to say that it's just a pretty good movie. I really have to say. It is a quite bit different from the book, which I will be talking about the book in a bit. But I gotta say, I love the acting. Paul Terry did good as James. Aunt Sponge and, Aunt Spiker were played by, Joanna Lumley and Marina Margoyles. I can't really pronounce that name, but they did pretty good. Along with, James's, his friends, like the grasshopper, the centipede, the ladybug, the spider, and even the other characters, they're actually really good and well made. I really do find, the whole story to be rather good. So, of course, Walt Disney acquires the rights for the film and the book by Dal in the instate of 1992, as the film begins with a 20 minutes of the normal live action, then becomes stop motion animation after James enters the Peach. And, just like I'm going to sit there and say, when it came to the stop motion part, it kind of reminded me of, a Tim Burton movie, because, Tim Burton did, stop motion animation with The Nightmare Before Christmas and Frankenweenie, and I believe Corpse Bride as well. And I think there was a few others that he did, but I could be wrong. But, it kind of reminds me of a Tim Burton film when I watched this movie. Like, when I watched it when I was, I don't know, a young kid, can't really remember the age, maybe 5 or 6. I really remember, being it's scary at certain parts, but it's actually pretty good for what this concept of it is. And then when it goes to live action, when James enters New York City, and although the characters remain stop motion, the bug characters, Silik had originally planned for James to be a real actor for the entire film, but then they later considered doing the whole film in stop motion, but ultimately settled in entirely live action and entirely stop motion sequences, but to keep the lower costs. Unlike the novel, James' aunts are not killed by the rolling Peach, although his parents' deaths occur in the novel, but they follow him to New York. So the release of this was released in 1996 in April 12th, which Disney released the film worldwide except for a few countries in Europe, including the United Kingdom, where, Pathé or the Allied filmmakers had handled the distribution, who holds the rights in independent companies. Only the countries that Disney does not have control over the movie, the United Kingdom and Germany, where the film was released in certain countries. Of course, the box office was just the number 2 spot at the box office, missing on top of Primal Fear, which never seen Primal Fear, so I'm not going to talk about that too much. But we could definitely say it was released on VHS around 1996, but then eventually they released it on Blu-ray and DVD as years went on. I really do like that how this movie went out, which of course, James and the Giant Peach produces during its lifetime, and it's a pretty well made detail. Like, it got nominated for, best rewards and all that. It's got, best, won some certain awards as well, which I really have to say, I really do like how well the whole movie was made. I really like how the soundtrack of it was just really pretty good for what that is. I really do like, the movie. I like the soundtrack of it. I do like the characters. I really do like how everything went out. It's flat out amazing. Like, I mean, if you were a kid in the 90s, you probably, or even the early 2000s, you probably remembered, seeing this movie. But since it's been like years since I've watched this movie, I do plan to sit there and possibly maybe rewatch it if I have the opportunity to do so, because I really like how this movie went out. I don't get it. Why does it have to end with, a part of the family member getting, to be evil? That's one of the things that a lot of people don't get. Is like, why does it have to be when the parents die, someone who's looking after the kid is, a villain? Like, I probably just think that maybe that might be just the ideas of where they got it from. But I really have to say the animation did pretty good. It was the stop motion, but the live action one did pretty good as well. I really do found the movie to be quite enjoyable. And, if you were a kid, you probably have noticed that, the animated parts of it kind of reminds you of like a Tim Burton movie, even though it's not made by Tim Burton. But I guess that's just that. Now, anyways, we're going to move on to the book of James and the Giant Peach, and you could pay attention to like all the differences that I'm, when I go through the plot of the book, and then you can basically, let me know, certain differences. So, James Henry Trotter is a boy who lives with his parents by a house by the sea happily, but when he is 4 years old, an escaped rhinoceros from the zoo eats James's parents. Like, they're herbivores, so I don't know. Like, I don't know why they would, eat meat right here when rhinoceroses are like plant eaters. Maybe it was a demonized rhino, I don't know, that eats James's parents. And of course, that's when James ends up with two cruel aunts, Spiker and Sponge. Instead of caring for him, they treat him badly and temporarily force him to sleep on bare floorboards, which I definitely have to say, I know they did treat him pretty badly in, the movie. So after James had been living with his aunts for 3 years, he meets a mysterious man who gives a bag of magical crystals, instructing James to use them on a potion that would change his life for the better. While returning home, James still stumbles and spills the bag on the ground, losing the crystals as they dig for themselves underground by a nearby peach tree. In turn, produces a single peach, which soon grows the size of a house, so Spiker and Sponge attempt to build a fence around it to earn money by selling it to viewing tickets for tourists. However, though, James is then locked in the house, only unable to see the peach through the bars of his bedroom window. But after the tourists have gone, James is assigned to clean the rubbish and finds a tunnel to the peach, so he enters it and he meets the centipede, the spider, green grasshopper, the earthworm, the ladybug, the glowworm, and the silkworm, who became friends. Now, the silkworm unfortunately did not appear in the movie from what I do know, but I could be wrong yet again, so feel free to let me know. Now, the next day, the centipede cuts the stem of the peach, causing it to roll away and crush James's aunts. So in the movie, James's aunts get arrested, but in the book, they end up getting crushed to death by the giant peach. It reaches the sea and then is surrounded by ravenous sharks, as James uses Miss Spider and Silkworm to make threads, while Earthworm uses it as bait just to draw the seagulls. In the near the peach, whereupon the threads have been tied to the necks, the peach is lifted off the water and above high in the clouds, where the James encounters the Cloudmen, who portrayed as responsible for the weather, as hailstorms and rainbows. Now, as the peach goes to the clouds, they meet the Cloudmen demons, as the centipede mocks the Cloudmen, but James is able to avoid clear altercation, and by bringing up the peach in a lower altitude, James realizes that the group had reached New York City. So when the massive peach lands on the spire of the Empire State Building, it is mistaken as a bomb at first, and the resulting of the arrival of police and firemen. Calming the crowd, and James tells the whole story about becoming friends with many children in New York, so they eat the peach as James and his friends got their own jobs. So as you can see here, the book is a lot more different compared to how the movie was. So like the silkworm, which was a female silkworm, but unfortunately she was not in, well, the story from what I do know. And, the character deaths of, Aunt Spiker and Aunt Sponge are pretty different because they don't die in the movie, they just get arrested. So, with the film adaptations on here, although they'll have declined numerous offers during his life to have a film of James and the Giant Peach produced. So, when it comes to, when it was directed by Henry Selick, produced by, Denis Deville and then Tim Burton, and both whom had previously produced, The Nightmare Before Christmas, like I mentioned earlier, which the movie consists of live action and stop animation motion just to reduce the production finances. Of course, the story itself was actually pretty well made in detail, and I really do found the story to be amazing. Like, even though the story was a little different compared to the movie, like the book was a little different, but I definitely have to say that I really I just noticed a lot of differences when it came to the James and the Giant Peach movie. That there's a lot of differences. Like Aunt Spiker and Sponge get ran over by the peach in the book, but in the movie they get arrested. So I guess maybe when Disney was gonna sit there and make the movie, they had to make some changes because some of the stuff in here were, I guess, a little too dark at the time. Because I know Disney has done a lot of messed up stuff in the 90s as well. They've done some messed up stuff. But I definitely have to say it's a pretty good story. Like, I really do like how the characters went out. The movie was well done and made. I really do think that the whole concept of it was just flat out amazing. So, of course, with that being the case and that being said, it's just a really well-made story. I really do think that the story itself was actually pretty nice in detail. Of course, the book has been released in certain places. I really do feel that, James and the Giant Peach did pretty good. Now, Ronald Dahl is the same author who wrote Charlie and the Chocolate Factory. And yes, it's the same author who wrote Charlie and the Chocolate Factory 3, which came out a few years after he finished writing James and the Giant Peach. Now, I have not read the book in like a really long time. I think when I read the book, I might have been, I don't know, pretty young, I guess you could say. I was like pretty young for what, when I read the book. I might have read it maybe in school, but I probably just don't remember because it's been like years. I definitely have to say, if you guys have not seen James and the Giant Peach movie, you need to go watch it. You will not be disappointed. It's a really good movie, and I highly recommend that if you want to see a good movie, there's that. Like, I know the same person who wrote the book, James and the Giant Peach, who wrote Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory. I really do like how that one went out as well, as it was a pretty messed up movie. Even though the book was a little more different, it does have more explanation as to what happened. And James's age is a little different in the book compared to how his age was portrayed in the movie. So you definitely have to see that there are a lot of differences point out in the book and the movie itself. So if you read the book, James and the Giant Peach, and then you watch the movie, you are going to see a lot of differences that have been described in the book, in the whole thing. So I guess with that being the case, that being said, that's probably just it for Shadows and Pretties episode 83. So what do you guys think about this movie? Did you like the movie? Did you like the book? Did you not like them either? Did you find it to be enjoyable? Do you like the book better? Do you like the movie better? And also, what we have done to person help make this movie and book a lot better. Feel free to leave me know what your thoughts are down in the comment section down below. I'm the Queen of Lions. Thank you so much for watching today's episode. And if you happen to be brand new here on this channel, be sure to like, comment, and subscribe because I make brand new videos every single day. Don't forget to ring the notification bell to when I upload, so then you guys will not miss an upload. And as always, I'll be catching you all in the next video, so peace out.